Welcome to the future.
Welcome to 1337, the future of podcast of longevity. I'm Max, your host, exploring the science of living longer.
And I'm Sofia, diving into health hacks and ageless living tips. We're here to uncover the secrets to a vibrant, extended life.
It seems like everywhere you turn these days, there's a new diet promising the fountain of youth. But today we're diving deep into two that have really captured people's imaginations and sparked a lot of debate: the Mediterranean diet and the carnivore diet.
They really represent opposite ends of the dietary spectrum.
Yeah.
One is all about embracing a variety of plant-based foods, while the other goes all in on animal products.
Okay, so let's start with the Mediterranean diet. What I find fascinating about this approach is that it's not just some fad diet. It's based on the traditional eating patterns of people living in countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea.
Right. It gained attention back in the 1950s thanks to a landmark study called the 7 Countries Study. Researchers noticed that people in these Mediterranean regions had lower rates of heart disease compared to other populations.
And that study wasn't just some small experiment, right? Didn't it follow thousands of people for years?
It did. The 7 Countries Study was groundbreaking for its time, following over 12,000 men for nearly 15 years across 7 different countries. It was one of the first to demonstrate the huge impact of dietary patterns on long-term health. It really helped shift the focus from individual nutrients to overall dietary patterns. Think of it as the original "you are what you eat" wake-up call.
Okay, so it's not just about popping a supplement or cutting out a single food group. It's about adopting a whole way of eating. So what does a typical Mediterranean diet look like?
Well, imagine a plate filled with vibrant colors. Fresh vegetables, fruits, beans, lentils, and whole grains. It's about embracing the bounty of nature and enjoying meals with family and friends, savoring fresh, seasonal ingredients, and making time for physical activity.
So it's a very holistic approach, almost a lifestyle rather than just a diet. What about those of us who love a good steak or juicy burger? Is meat completely off the menu?
Not necessarily. Meat isn't the star of the show in the Mediterranean diet, but it's certainly not banished. Think of it more as a flavor enhancer, used in smaller portions or incorporated into dishes to add depth and complexity.
Okay, so it's about finding that balance. And seafood plays a big role in this diet too, right? I'm picturing fresh grilled fish with a squeeze of lemon and a drizzle of olive oil.
Absolutely. Aim for at least 2 servings of fish per week, especially fatty fish like salmon, tuna, and sardines, which are packed with those beneficial omega-3 fatty acids that are so good for heart health and brain function.
So lots of delicious and nutritious options there. But let's shift gears now and talk about the carnivore diet. It's definitely a radical departure from the plant-centric approach we've been discussing. I mean, no fruits, no vegetables, just meat, right?
You got it. The carnivore diet eliminates all plant-based foods and focuses solely on consuming animal products. It's definitely a controversial approach that raises a lot of eyebrows.
I can imagine. It seems to go against everything we've been taught about healthy eating. So what's the rationale behind such a bold approach?
Proponents of the carnivore diet believe that meat is a superfood that can provide all the nutrients the body needs. They argue that by eliminating plant-based foods, you eliminate potential problems associated with plant compounds, things like lectins and oxalates, which some people believe can be detrimental to health.
That's certainly a different way of looking at things, but I'm sure there are plenty of folks out there who are skeptical. What kind of evidence is there to support these claims?
Well, the carnivore diet is still relatively new, and there aren't a lot of long-term studies to back up its claims. A lot of the evidence comes from anecdotal reports, people sharing their personal experiences and how they've seen improvements in their health while following a carnivore diet.
Okay, so it's more about personal experiences than scientific data at this point. What are some of the potential benefits that people claim to experience on this diet?
People report various benefits, from weight loss and improved blood sugar control to reduced inflammation, and even the reversal of certain chronic conditions. It really runs the gamut. But again, it's important to remember that these are individual experiences and may not apply to everyone.
So it's crucial to approach it with a critical eye and not just jump on the bandwagon because someone on the internet claims it cured their ailment.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to remember that everyone's body is different and what works for one person might not work for another. It's about understanding your own individual needs and making informed decisions based on evidence and guidance from healthcare professionals.
Now, I had to ask, what are some of the potential concerns that people might have about this diet? I mean, cutting out entire food groups seems pretty extreme.
One common concern is the potential for nutritional deficiencies. Plant-based foods are rich in vitamins, minerals, and fiber, so eliminating them entirely could lead to gaps in certain nutrients. Vitamin C and fiber are often brought up as potential concerns.
That makes sense. Those are things we typically associate with fruits, vegetables, and whole grains.
Right. But proponents of the carnivore diet argue that meat does contain vitamin C, although in smaller amounts than many plant-based sources, and that a meat-only diet can actually simplify digestion and reduce the need for huge amounts of fiber.
That's an interesting perspective. It challenges the conventional wisdom about the importance of fiber for digestive health.
It does, and it's one of the key points of debate surrounding this diet. There's also the concern about the potential impact on kidney health with such a high protein intake.
That's a valid concern. We've always heard that too much protein can be hard on the kidneys.
That's been the traditional thinking, but more recent research suggests that in healthy individuals, a high protein intake from meat doesn't necessarily harm kidney function. Of course, if you have any pre-existing kidney conditions, it's crucial to consult with a healthcare professional before making any major dietary changes.
It sounds like individualized guidance is key when it comes to this diet. What about other potential downsides? I imagine the social aspect to be tricky, trying to maintain a meat-only diet when everyone else is enjoying pizza or pasta.
You're right, that could definitely be a challenge. Adhering to a strict carnivore diet can require some extra planning and preparation, especially in social situations.
So it's not just about changing what you eat, but also potentially changing how you socialize and interact with food in various settings. It's a big commitment.
It is, and it's not a decision to be taken lightly.
Okay, so we've got a good overview of the Mediterranean diet with its focus on plant-based abundance and the carnivore diet with its all-meat approach. They definitely present contrasting philosophies when it comes to food choices.
They do. And I think what's most important for our listener today is to understand the rationale behind each approach, the potential benefits and risks, and to really evaluate them based on their individual needs, preferences, and goals.
Absolutely. It's not about finding the one right diet, but rather about discovering what works best for you. And there are certainly some intriguing aspects to both of these approaches.
There are. And as with any dietary change, it's crucial to approach it thoughtfully, do your research, and seek guidance from qualified healthcare professionals.
Great advice. Now let's dive a little deeper into some of the specific foods and meal ideas that embody these two contrasting dietary philosophies. First up, let's explore the delicious world of the Mediterranean diet.
When you think of the Mediterranean diet, picture yourself strolling through a vibrant market, picking out sun-ripened tomatoes, fragrant herbs, and just-caught fish. It's all about embracing the bounty of nature.
Okay, so paint a picture for me. What would a typical day of meals look like on this diet?
For breakfast, you could start your day with Greek yogurt topped with berries and a drizzle of honey, or perhaps some whole grain toast with avocado and a sprinkle of feta cheese.
Sounds delicious and satisfying. What about lunch?
Lunch could be a colorful salad with grilled chicken or fish, or a hearty lentil soup with a side of crusty bread. Think vibrant greens, chickpeas, cucumbers, tomatoes, and a simple olive oil and lemon dressing.
Mouth-watering. And for dinner?
Dinner could feature a baked salmon fillet with roasted vegetables like zucchini, bell peppers, and eggplant. Or you could enjoy a vegetarian dish like a flavorful chickpea and spinach curry served with brown rice.
It all sounds incredibly fresh and flavorful. And I love how it emphasizes using simple, whole ingredients and highlighting their natural flavors.
Exactly. It's about letting the quality of the ingredients shine through without relying on heavy sauces or processed foods.
Now let's turn our attention to the carnivore diet. It's definitely a more minimalist approach. So what would a typical day of meals look like on this diet?
Well, as you might imagine, meat is the star of every meal on the carnivore diet. Breakfast could be a simple plate of bacon and eggs, or a steak and eggs combo for those who prefer a heartier start to their day.
So not exactly your typical bowl of cereal. What about lunch and dinner?
Lunch could be a juicy burger patty topped with cheese, or a roast chicken leg with a side of bone broth. For dinner, you might enjoy a grilled ribeye steak, pan-seared salmon, or a rack of lamb.
It sounds like a meat lover dream come true. But I have to ask, doesn't it get a bit repetitive, eating only meat, day in and day out?
That's a common concern, and proponents of the carnivore diet often recommend experimenting with different cuts of meat, cooking methods, and seasonings to keep things interesting. They also emphasize focusing on high-quality meat from reputable sources to ensure you're getting the best nutrition and flavor.
So it's about being resourceful and finding creative ways to make meat the centerpiece of every meal.
Exactly. It's about embracing the simplicity of this dietary approach while still finding ways to make it enjoyable and sustainable.
Okay, so we've explored what a typical day of meals might look like on both the Mediterranean and carnivore diets. Now let's step back and compare and contrast these two approaches, highlighting their strengths and weaknesses.
The Mediterranean diet is widely considered a balanced and sustainable way of eating. It's backed by decades of research and has consistently been linked to a lower risk of chronic diseases like heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and certain types of cancer.
It's definitely got a strong track record when it comes to health benefits.
It does, and it's also a very flexible diet, allowing for plenty of variations and regional adaptations. It's not about rigid rules, but rather about embracing a set of principles that can be tailored to individual preferences and lifestyles.
So it's more about a way of life than a strict set of dietary restrictions.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the potential downsides of the Mediterranean diet?
Well, for some people, the emphasis on plant-based foods might not be appealing or suitable for their dietary needs or preferences. If you're someone who thrives on a higher protein intake or who doesn't enjoy the taste or texture of many fruits and vegetables, this diet might not be the best fit.
That makes sense. It's important to find a way of eating that feels both enjoyable and sustainable. Now let's turn our attention to the carnivore diet. What would you say are some of its strengths?
One of the biggest strengths of the carnivore diet is its simplicity. It eliminates the need for calorie counting, macro tracking, or meal planning. You essentially just eat meat when you're hungry and stop when you're full.
So it's a very straightforward approach, and I could see how that would be appealing to people who are overwhelmed by the complexities of other diets.
Exactly. It takes a lot of the guesswork and decision fatigue out of eating, and for some people, that simplicity can be incredibly freeing.
But what about the potential downsides? We've already touched upon some of the concerns like nutritional deficiencies and social limitations.
Right. And another potential downside is the lack of long-term research on its effects on health. It's a relatively new approach, and we don't yet have a clear understanding of its potential long-term consequences.
So it's important to proceed with caution and to be aware of the potential risks.
Absolutely, and to consult with healthcare professionals to ensure it's a safe and appropriate choice for you.
So you've got two very different dietary approaches here, each with its pros and cons. How would you sum up the key differences between the Mediterranean and carnivore diets?
The Mediterranean diet embraces a variety of plant-based foods along with moderate amounts of meat and dairy, and emphasizes the importance of olive oil, herbs, and spices. It's a holistic approach to eating that's backed by strong scientific evidence and has been linked to numerous health benefits.
It's definitely a well-rounded and time-tested approach.
The carnivore diet, on the other hand, eliminates all plant-based foods and focuses solely on animal products. It's a more extreme approach that's based on the belief that meat is the optimal food for human health, but it lacks the same level of scientific support and raises concerns about potential nutrient deficiencies and long-term health risks.
Okay, so two very distinct paths when it comes to food choices, but ultimately it's about finding what works best for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. We all have unique needs, preferences, and goals, and what works for one person might not work for another.
So for our listener today who's been intrigued by both the Mediterranean and carnivore diets, what advice would you give them as they navigate these dietary options?
I would encourage them to do their research, weigh the potential benefits and risks carefully, and consult with healthcare professionals to make an informed decision that aligns with their individual health needs and goals.
Great advice. And remember that there's no one right diet for everyone. It's about finding an approach that feels sustainable, enjoyable, and supportive of your overall well-being. It's been a fascinating exploration of these two very different approaches to eating.
It really highlights how diverse dietary philosophies can be, and how important it is to find what truly resonates with you.
So for our listener who's been soaking up all this information, what would you say is the most important takeaway from our deep dive today?
I think the key takeaway is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to nutrition. Both the Mediterranean and carnivore diets have their pros and cons, and the best diet for you is the one that aligns with your individual needs, preferences, and lifestyle.
That's such a crucial point. It's not about following the latest fad or jumping on a bandwagon. It's about making informed choices that support your overall health and well-being.
Exactly. And it's about being open to exploring different approaches, but also being critical of the information you come across, and seeking guidance from qualified healthcare professionals.
Great advice. And to remember that food is more than just fuel. It's about nourishment, enjoyment, and connection. So whether you're drawn to the abundance of the Mediterranean diet or the simplicity of the carnivore diet, it's important to find an approach that makes you feel good, both physically and mentally.
Absolutely. It's about finding a way of eating that supports your overall health and vitality, and that you can sustain for the long haul.
Well said. This has been a truly insightful deep dive into the world of the Mediterranean and carnivore diets. I'm sure our listener feels much more equipped to navigate these dietary options and make choices that align with their personal health journey.
I hope so. It's been a pleasure exploring these fascinating topics with you.
The pleasure was all mine. And for our listener, be sure to visit us at 1337podcast.com for more deep dives into longevity, health, and wellness. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the Mediterranean and carnivore diets. See you next time. Strength and honor. I am Spartacus.
Thanks for watching. Tap into 1337podcast.com.